Keynote speaking pipeline is today's topic. Last week, we talked already a little bit about, or I don't even know, it was last week or the week before, getting paid for keynotes, and we looked into the funnel and so on. So today, because I got quite some questions afterwards, I really go more deeper into the system, or not into the system, into the system of the pipeline. But as usual, before we go into the pipeline itself, I go quickly over the system. So we have personal brand as the essential piece of all of it, where we look into who are we as individuals, how do we, what is our why, and then we bring all of this into our hub, which is the personal website, and from there we are developing content that we are distributing in the world, and then looping that back to business and keynotes. And from a flow perspective, this is how it looks. So we start with videos that we are producing that we put into our hub in a blog format, and then we are distributing it into all the different social media platforms so that we drag the attention back into our hub. When we talk about speaking, that's into our speaking page, and then we are getting that towards speaking engagements. So that's the flow. And precondition for everything that is coming from now is I always go back to the credibility and visibility. We need to package the credibility that we have into content, into our website, into our hub, and then we need to share this to generate the visibility so that when we reach out, which is now coming in the next part of the presentation today, so that they can explore us. Because if we reach out to someone and they don't see us, they don't see our credibility, it's very hard to convince them that we should be keynote speaker at their event or in their company. So that's a precondition for everything that comes now. Pipeline. Pipeline is the outbound version of what we did last time. So the video from last time is already online. So everyone that is watching the recording or has questions on the inbound model and how you go deeper into that, that is all in the other video. And I will put the link to that somewhere afterwards connected to this video. So super, super important. When you build a pipeline, it doesn't matter if it's sales for your business or speaking, and we are talking now about speaking, you need to have tracking. So you need to track every single step towards the goal, which is getting paid for speaking engagements. If you don't track, you don't know what's going on. If you don't document with it, you don't have no idea. I can show you a little bit how I do this with this. These are not real numbers. These are fake numbers. I just created a demo pipeline to show you how you can see these things. Super important. You don't need to have a special tool like I have. You can use an Excel table, a Google Doc, paper and pen. Doesn't matter. But tracking, super important so that you know in which stage are any of your opportunities that come from speaking. And so that you then know, okay, where are we right now with all the different speaking engagements and what is your conversion rate when it comes to outbound speaking? So everything starts with prospecting. This is the level I have shared last time already a little bit, but I go more into details today. Prospecting starts with, again, two versions of outbound when it comes to speaking. One thing is events, and one is companies that are organizing internal events. Events is more conferences and bigger events that are going on. I always recommend go towards the number 100 because number 100 gives you a possibility to have enough so that you can measure things and as well enough so that you keep on going. There's a strategy out there that is called Dream 100 that I often use. We don't need to call it Dream 100 because there's a lot of scam when it comes to that. So I just call it 100. So have a list of the 100 events you want to be speaking at. And it doesn't matter if they are now, if they're in 2 months, if they're in 2 years, put a list together of all the events that are connected to what you do, either with your business or you would love to speak at as an individual. The second thing is look into a list of companies you would like to speak at. every, let's say, Fortune 1000 for sure has internal events where they're utilizing speakers, either motivational speakers or educational speakers in certain capacity. So build a list of the companies you would like to work at. If you have a business like I have, I'm of course doing a way more targeted version of that because I'm reaching out to companies where I want to do business with and as well speak. So that's the combination of that when you have a business. So it's just like houses, like two birds with one stone, something like that. Number two of prospecting. So when you have this list, then you go into more details. What is the event about and how can I provide value when you look at the event? So let's say you are looking to speak at a startup event. You look what is the event headline. You look what are the other speakers, what are they promoting when it comes to that event. And then you look into how you as an individual can provide value to that event and to the event organizers. The same thing almost with the companies. With them, you go a little bit deeper because it's more specific. So you look into what are their challenges and what are their desires. And then going in the same way, how can you provide value? But with this one, it's more how can you build the bridge between the challenges they have and the desires they have? And then provide a solution and value towards that so that you know exactly before you do anything else, you know what the company is about, you know their challenges and desires. And of course, it's not all of it is public, but a lot of things are these days. So that's the good thing. And if we go now to step 3, that's the next level of this. You go one level deeper. So you look at companies and events, and then you look into who that's person who is organizing the event, which person inside of the company, which person inside of the event organization is for speaking. Because if you know this, then you know a person. Everything is personal. That's super, super important to remember for us, even that it might be a very, very huge event like the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona with a couple of hundreds of thousands of people there, if not millions. It's still people that are organizing the specifics. If we know who is the person, then we know how we can reach out to them. So what I always do if I have a person, let's use LinkedIn as an example. If I have a person that I know that's organizing the event, then I can see, do I have connections to that person? Do I know someone that can introduce me? That's the easiest way to get connected to someone. If you know someone that knows this person, you can ask for a warm introduction. That's the easiest way, and it's the biggest and fastest trustful way. If I don't know anyone, then I look into how can I contact them? What are the different ways that I can contact this person? That's for events and companies exactly the same. So then I'm looking into what are the different tools that I can use? Is it like LinkedIn? Is it any other social media platform? Is it email? Is it phones? Whatever it is. And what would be the best way to contact them? Because sometimes, even though that you have, let's say, the phone number of a CEO of a large corporation, it's maybe not the best way to contact them. So that's something that you need to do with feel, like what do you think is the best way to get at least started and introduce yourself to them. And then I always go, and Jim and I talked about that in the past, like how would you be unique in contacting them? What are the different ways you could contact them that is not like you're not 1 out of 10,000, like you're one person that is like nobody else can be the same, and automatically you stand out. And that's a little bit like, are there any guerrilla things you could do? Are there easy things where you can bump into them? Whatever it is, that's where you need to be a little bit more creative. But it can be as easy sending them a text message. So it's don't have to be complicated, but how can you send a text message or a LinkedIn message that you stand out? Do you send them a video instead of a text message? Whatever it is, how you can, and as well how you're comfortable in doing that. So 3 steps in going into prospecting. It's pretty similar to business as well, but specifically what I've seen is now this is the next level when it comes to the connection. As said, everything are people. even though that you talk maybe to a very large company and you think it's a big company, let's say Volkswagen, whatever big company it is, it's people that are behind the company that are deciding. So the worst thing that you can do is generalizing when you talk to people. Everyone sees that straight away. I mean, you most probably all are on LinkedIn. Everyone gets tons of messages on LinkedIn where they just talk about themselves. So you know exactly. I mean, I have had people that are promoting their social media service to me. Like that they're approaching me is like, hey, you should be working more on your social media. They haven't even looked at my social media profiles. Rather, and for sure not to my business. I've had when I was working with my startup on leadership development, I had someone who was approaching me to coach me on leadership. So they definitely have not looked at my profile. So very, very important, always personalized. And then there's this framework that I love very much because it's just a human way of communication. Acknowledge, compliment, and ask. ACA. And it's not mine. I've copied that from Alex Hormozi, that who is well known. So it's a very easy way. So I give you an example. You acknowledge someone, hey, you have seen your post. That's acknowledgement. And then you say, love what you talk about, and then you go more into details. That's the compliment. And then you ask, and you don't ask directly, hey, do you look for a keynote speaker in this case? You ask about the specifics of that post. You start a conversation with another human being and ask them because you're curious about the other person. And that's why I have the ... afterwards. It's a couple of cycles where you interact and build a relationship with another person before you go into pitching something. That's the same for sales and other topics. Um, I have just seen it works better when you are creating a relationship. And important, go back to the beginning where I said you need to have your credibility visible. Because when you're connecting, let's say, let's go to the most simple way. You're connecting to someone on LinkedIn and you're exchanging with them messages. They see your post, they see what you're about, they look at your social media profile, in this case, LinkedIn. If you have your website, they will look into your website. So they see the value and the credibility that you have automatically, and you just have a conversation with them. I do this behind the scenes every day. And I do this for like business sales, but also as well for keynote topics. It works super well. It's just being patient before you ask something that goes towards sales. And then when it comes to that point that you think that I got them into that direction, then focus on how you provide value to them. Has nothing to do with you. So how can you provide value? That's why I started instead of prospecting. You know already how you provide value to the company, how you could provide value to the event. Start with that. If you know exactly how you could help them, then that's why I put value ask here. Ask them if there would be value in it that you could speak about the topic on their next event. So this ask is an easy way for you to get your foot in the door and get them like into a conversation about, hey, wouldn't it be interesting to have me as a keynote speaker? Of course, this requires time. It's really, that's why I said like have a list of 100 so that you nudge things going forward. And then follow up, and follow up is maybe not the right word here, but it's important from a sales perspective that you follow up. It's about relationships, especially when it comes to keynote, because keynote speaking, in the best case, you want to be associated with an event that is booking you more often, or a company where you provide value that is booking you more often. So even if nothing comes out in the beginning, stay connected. Remind them on certain topics, loop back with them, congratulate them to their birthday, send them something that's valuable to them, not to you. Ask them questions in between. Just nudge it all the time going forward. And the important part of this is that you document this. Because when you document, then you know what you have done last time. It's easy, let's say, if you have a LinkedIn text message with that person, okay, you see all the messages. If you had a call in between, you don't see it anymore. So you need to find for yourself a way, and that can be, again, the most simple way is, let's say, a Google Sheet where you have all the different things and you copy and paste the messages, the calls, the emails that you have sent with the other person, the face-to-face meetings in long term with that other person inside of your Google Sheet, so that you track what you have talked about, how you can provide value to the other person. And for me, that's what I have learned. Everything matters. Every single information you get from, let's say, from an event manager of a large organization that you're in contact, can matter over time. If you see then red threads throughout your notes, you can bring things into the next conversation. And then my tip, what I would do is I would build that into my day-to-day. So how do you build a habit that you do at least 10 conversations that go towards keynote speaking every day? Minimum 10. Normally I say 100, and people that have worked with me in the past, they know that I say 100, but I also know that 100 is really something only for the most ambitious. If you want to speak on stage every 4 weeks, I would go towards 100. If you're fine speaking, let's say twice per year, do 10. Because it takes a long time to get things moving. If we go back to the funnel perspective, like you get in contact with someone, you start a conversation with someone, and then you nudge them slowly towards the future and getting connected to them. And just because it takes time and you're tracking, if you do 10 every day, it helps you things ticking over. Just seeing your messages now. Sorry. How much time you need for 10 sorting, documenting, waiting? It really depends. I mean, it can be super fast. If you're lucky, you have like, I mean, the easiest for me is always if you do 10, let's say 15 minutes, simple version. If you track properly and you have a system for you built out, it doesn't take much time. If you get started, it's maybe half an hour, but 10 should not be taking more than 15, 20 minutes, in my
Jens,
experience.
how are your experience with like sales system like Salesforce and so on, when they're having like a sales funnel and they work automatically?
In which way work automatically? You mean sending out messages and so on?
Like a funnel with like 20 mails and it's sending emails personalized for the topic for the people more or less, and that we are the speakers and we are like offering to speak.
What I have seen with speaking, zero conversion. We have tried this last year, January, February, zero. In my case,
How long?
2 months.
And how
We
many
had hundreds per day,
new
100 to
ones?
200 per day, zero conversion.
So new ones every day.
Yeah,
So it's like we have like 4,000 in total.
yeah, zero.
Okay. How many mails we had in the funnel?
It was like 7, 8.
Okay.
So what we have seen, at least for me at that time, it didn't work. Doesn't say that it's not working. Maybe it was the wrong message, it was the wrong tool, whatever. At least what I have seen is the personal version, in my case, works better. I can show you an example. I'm not sure if I still have it open. Yes, let's go. I just show you the demo pipeline. The cool thing, if you have like a CRM, Salesforce, or whatever it is, and it doesn't matter which tool, it's just that you have everything of every that's my fake version. You just have everything in one version. Then you have all the notes, for example, about these things, inside of one opportunity. And then you just see where it is, and over time you add then the value to it, and then you know if you go into, where is it? Into your dashboard and then go into, let's say, go into this funnel. That's now the demo pipeline here. Then you see all the different steps where things are. But that's just the capability of, let's say, a tool that helps you. It's not required. It's just one of the opportunities that you have where you say, okay, I can track this better. What I like about this, and I'm not showing my pipeline because I have really all the detailed personal notes in it. I really have all the things that I mentioned. I have really all of it inside of my pipeline. Like what I told the person on the phone where I am, and then I'm putting for myself, I always put a reminder back. When do I want to reach out to that person so that it pops up automatically? So then it's, let's say it's 2 weeks later and I want to follow up, and then it's automatically popping into my task list. You can do the same on Google Sheet. You just create like a column where you say, okay, I want to follow up with that person on this date, and then you just filter, today is the 20th of January, and then you just filter 20th of January, and then you see this 5 people I want to follow up. Works the same way. It's just not as fancy. Questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you do the scouting? Do you use technology to help you to find the 100 companies to send this first communication or first communication request? No? Which kind of tool do you use outside the ChatGPT or something like that?
All of them.
All of them.
So when we look at events, you can look into the biggest events of your industry, and you can, let's say, start with Google, or you start with ChatGPT that comes up. It's just one thing that I've learned now with AI. You always need to question it to see, are this really the top events of your industry or not? So that's something. It's just, don't believe just the first answer you get with AI. You always need to dig deeper, but you can get proper lists of everything. Like I do the same when it comes to business company targeting or Keynote company target. I look into what are the companies I want to speak at, and then look as well, what are the links, what are the CEOs, because you can ask all these questions and then get let's say an Excel table from ChatGPT. You just then need to check if this, like the informations are true, because what I've seen sometimes it's not true. It's just verifying it.
From the beginning, the ChatGPT was telling me that he's not allowed to share sensible information about name, surname, about the email, telephone number, something like that. And then I was trying to find better ways. And it works with the old method, like the yellow pages or something like that. It works really well. Hey, believe me, it works. The Gemini, there's another one that I was trying to test, but with the GPT you can get a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge help these days, where you can just, let's say you look for companies in a certain industry, and then you say, hey, I'm looking for companies in a certain industry with this amount of employees, so that you know, okay, they're at least above a certain level that they do keynote speakers internally, and then you just filter it on that. Yeah, and the good thing is you can ask then for websites in ChatGPT, for example, and then you have a list of all the websites as well, and then you can dig deeper. What I always do is I still then copy all of that information into the pipeline or into the Excel table, doesn't matter, so that you have a separate list of all of them, and then you just go step by step. This contact, start from the top and go to the bottom. Contact them.
Do you track all the rejections you get before getting the yes? So, I mean, X company, I contact them 10 times, 10 no's, but at the 11th time, yes. Now, do you track this stuff? Then you have the average of yes, no, yes, no. Yeah, I do the same.
That's what I meant with tracking, because then when you track it, then you know that you need to do 10 times. Because maybe you stop at 5 times, and it is 6 times the
consistency.
average. Yeah. And it's also when you do this, it's just it helps you to understand. Sometimes it's just your messaging is wrong in the way you're communicating. And when you track it, then you can test it over time, or you can test different versions. What I'm also doing is badging it. So it's like 10 people with this outreach, 10 people with another outreach to see what's going on.
That's good. Yeah, for me it's really important to know how many tryouts do you must to do before getting the yes. There's a lot of undercover work, but it's worth.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jens.
The good thing with that is if you have 100, and if you have like the 100 you really would love to speak at, you just go back to them all the time. Because 100 is quite a lot. It's not easy to get to like the bottom of a 100. Even if you do 10 per day, it sounds a lot, but you start with reaching out to 10, then you have 20, but then you follow up again. So it's going always in the loop, and it gets more and more and more. And if you do 100,
that's exponential.
Exactly. If you do 100, 100, 100, then you have like 500 to follow up plus 100, then it's like a full-time job. So it's just something. What I see is, and that's something that we do religiously, is every day, never stop. Because if you stop, then let's say, same with business. If you stop with business, that you don't do pipeline anymore, or that you don't do prospecting sales, nothing is coming. Let's say you have a job. Let's say you're a consultant. If you take that example, you got a job, then you have, let's say, 2 months work, and you don't do sales, and then you have half a year nothing because you haven't done anything. So even if it's just 10 per day, in this 10, 20 minutes, it's worth it all the time.
That's
and
great.
Just taking this over for Keynote, it's just an easy way. And if you have an assistant or someone that helps you, like you don't need to do everything yourself. If it's on LinkedIn, I would use your profile because you have the biggest credibility and not someone else. But it's just, if you have emails, then nobody sees if you send the email to someone else. How my cold outreach looks like is, it's not the cold outreach.
It's like
I don't do cold. Like cold for me is like we have never heard from each other, and I send you an email. Example.
That's a
I don't
intro.
do that. Yeah, I don't do that. So I give you an example on let's use LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is something everyone understands. So LinkedIn, what I do when we target the big companies, same with my business. It's the same process. What we do, we look at the company. What I do is I start following the company. So let's say it's this big industry company. I start following the company, and then I'm adding in my case, because I work with executives only, I ask them to connection requests without any text. So if you get one of them, then then I move them to the next level, which means I start with the ACA. I'm engaging with their content on their personal, but as well on the company level. So I'm engaging with, let's say, industry company XYZ. They post something, I'm engaging with it. I'm writing a comment, I'm liking it, so that the marketing folks see this. And then I do this with the individuals as well. So that's part of the follow-up and nurturing, building a relationship, is that you have touch points with that person. Even that you don't talk on a text message level on LinkedIn, you still have touch points. The other person sees that you react to their posts. The other person sees that you're commenting on their posts, and through that you can then one day move towards the one-on-one message. That's how I do it. So I wait most of the time like 2-3 weeks before I'm sending a message to that person.
All right. So you need to like really track it. Do you really just have like a Google Sheet, or you have like a, I don't know, like a CRM, or like a very complex Notion sheet for that?
I use CRM.
Which one do you prefer?
I use high level.
High level.
Go high level, it's called. That's just where it's just functionality because it has everything in once, like social media posting, email marketing, and everything. It's not cheap.
But you save more. You save time with this tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not required. So don't focus too much on the tool. The important stuff is reaching out, contacting people. That's the important
I have a standard
thing.
Excel file.
I know. Frank has an Excel file since 2 years, which works. And that's for free.
And it's every week is longer, and longer.
Yeah. So don't focus too much on the tool. Focus more on doing the work every day.
Yeah.
That's more important than any tool.
Yeah.
Jim, you have a question?
Yes. It's not always a very clear or direct to immediately find when prospecting, finding that one event coordinator right away for the company, finding the special event. So in your experience, what are the I guess job titles of the gatekeepers to get to that event coordinator, to that person who is in charge of booking keynotes?
Yeah, very good question. Number one, assistant of the executives. The assistants of the executives in every company that I've ever worked in are involved in the events most of the time. So if you have, let's say, assistant of the CEO, assistant of marketing, whatever it is, from the C-suite, they're always involved in the events. Always, every company. Not in every event, but in most of the events. So that's one job title. Another, obviously, marketing, like people that work in marketing, because they're just often organizing events. And another, not that obvious, is how it's called, C&D, competence development. So that's a function or a sub-function that most big companies have inside of HR, and they often organize trainings. And what I've seen in the big organizations, that they're of course organizing leadership trainings and trainings in general for internal, but then because they organize trainings, they just get sometimes the events on top. And so this, I would say, are the strongest leads in a company. Assistant is number one because they always know what's going on, and they're always involved in at least booking for all the executives and so on. And then I would say the next one is marketing, people that work with marketing campaigns, because they organize the business topics when it comes to business events. And then the third one would be competence development. These are the people that I'm targeting as well for keynote speaking.
Thank you so much. That helps a lot.
Yeah.
I just want to give an example. It's a nice example. If you saw Iron Man, you shall contact Pepper. She's gonna do all the stuff because she knows all about Tony Stark doing the stuff. You don't need to contact Tony. You need to go to contact Pepper.
Yeah, it's true. It's especially in large organizations, assistant is the gold mine. In general, sales is always. Of course, they get a lot of, but if you're smart and you get a connection with the assistant, then you're on a winning streak all the time. But that also means you need to be extra cautious, because if you fuck up, then that's it. More questions?
How much time did it take to you to get all your calls done? Or other question, or the more defined question, how much time do you need yourself as a person, and what is your assistant doing?
Yeah, I don't spend much time on it myself right now. So I'm in a lucky position in the moment. But
yeah,
let's say when I do this, I mean, I still do the LinkedIn stuff. we are not too much outbound focused right now on LinkedIn, but what I'm definitely doing that's more for the business topic, not for speaking. I'm doing the basics, which is I'm checking out the post of my top 20 companies. I'm interacting with it. I'm interacting with the post of the individuals that I'm targeting. And I do the one-on-one messages on LinkedIn. So time-wise, it's maybe half an hour per day for me in the moment. It's not much. But I only need 5 customers per year. I don't need the volume.
Yeah, see.
That's if you need volume, let's say you're selling something that's, let's say, below 10,000 euros, then you need at least, let's just give a number, you need 10 customers per day. 10 times 10 is 100,000. If you are a small business with 1 person. If you have 2 people, then you need more. So it really depends. And then it's just you just need to add that to the sales. But you say, okay, I need to increase the volume and the amount of people that you reach out and engagement to get to the numbers. Sales, if you look into sales basics, is all a numbers game. And that's for those that joined us last weekend. When you have an irresistible signature keynote, which is extremely well defined, it's going to be easier because people will understand your value in all of this. If you have a very well-defined speaking page and you're exposing yourself and your credibility in social media, it's all easier because you don't need to do too much sales work. It's just you're interacting with the people and they see what you do. Because they see what you do, sometimes they're just reaching out to yourself. I had it a couple of times now where I started just the first outreach, which is connection request, and then they contacted me. That was not on speaking, that was on business topics. Just doing the homework and using your credibility and making it visible is the precondition for all of it. Just gets easier. Because if let's say you reach out to people, let's just use LinkedIn again, and you have a crappy photo, a crappy profile, it's highly likely that they are not accepting your request as a starting point, and then they're not going to answer in case they do. So it's super important. And whenever you text on LinkedIn to someone, you need to be very personal. If you're not specific and personal, you all get this outbound messages every day. They will directly delete everything or don't answer. More questions?
Yeah, wondering about like the signature that you create for yourself. Maybe you work not like in a specific field, like I don't know, like some glucose science in in the health sector, but you're more like in a meta discipline, like innovation or communication, marketing. How to position yourself there properly when you want to work really like across industries?
I give you my example. So if you take the agency that I've launched in November, which is 100% focused on doing personal branding for CEOs. So personal branding is very wide. And then we brought it to personal branding for executives, and then we zoomed into personal branding for CEOs. And then we zoomed even further in that we said is we do thought leadership for CEOs. And we do thought leadership, and that's our target. Don't tell anyone. Thought leadership for CEOs in the manufacturing industry. So you cannot see that in the way we communicate because we don't say, hey, we are only working with CEOs in the manufacturing industry, but everything that we are targeting sales-wise goes to that. So when you work in innovation, you can work in innovation everywhere. That means it's vanilla. It's like you're speaking to no one because everyone talks about innovation. But when you talk about innovation in Germany, that's already smaller. Innovation in a specific industry sector, then it's more specific. And then it's all basics. Then you have your avatar, you just talk. In my case, I talk in every single video towards the CEO from a sales perspective. So same when you look into keynotes, like you almost have the avatar on the other side that you want to reach. So if you want to talk to the assistant of the business, then you need to talk to the business. Jim and I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, where he said is one of the industries that's very strong where he lives is the financial industry. So how do we build something that he can target the financial industry in the local area where he lives in? Because it's so much, then he don't need to travel with a small child coming. So it's just you zoom in and then you just talk in a way that it is resonating with that people. And as well, everything that you communicate towards then is then you know the pain points better, you know the desires better, and then you can just go more into a narrow window. And it's still innovation. It's still, let's say, design thinking, but it's just specific for that industry.
But for me, like, just feels so counterintuitive because, like, I mean, the depth of my knowledge comes from like the breadth of like perspective that I gained, and through that, I could really learn the problems are very comparable, regardless if I work in health or in aviation, because
I know
the team dynamics are almost the same fuck up. Because just like in the field of modern times we are living in, people suffering almost the same.
I understand, but is the value of niching down is just that the price that you can charge.
But I mean, I still don't get it, because if you take communication, let's take interpersonal communication in team dynamics. I don't know.
Yeah.
What speaks for my, like, I don't know, like degree of profession to have just like experienced that in aviation? Would I not
Has
do
nothing to do with you. That's only, so we are only talking about sales. Has nothing to do with you. It's all about them. As more they see that you're the right person to do that with them, as easier it is to sell.
But what is like if I just don't want to work exclusively for aviation? Even I like the sector, the industry sector, but if I just don't want, I mean, it's like for me, it's like really counterintuitive. And I know for like every like scanner personality or someone with a holistic look at it, the concept of niching down. If I would say like I do design, communication, marketing, sales, and business development, either like in all fields or just like in the field of butchering, industrial butchering or whatsoever, this would be like for me like very doubtful approach. But saying like communication, regardless of the industry, like with the, I mean, I gained so much insights, but by playing the game like for years, like in many industries, and this gave me a refined perspective that even pollinates one specific field that like benefits from experience from another field. That's like transfer from me.
Agree, 100%.
But where does it come from? I don't get the point. I mean, it's a doctor, you know, like it's just, I understand if you have maybe like a kidney doctor, you know, but it sounds for me like, okay, a kidney doctor that just works for 1.50 meter high black people that are overweight and have like, I don't know, crumply toenails. Makes no sense.
Yes and no. It's just, if you think about it, let's say, let's take a random topic out of the air.
Mhm.
I'm a runner and I want to do long distance running.
Mhm.
So I can search for a coach, and I can search for the coach. Let's say I have money and money is no problem.
Sure.
Whom do you want to work with? So I want to work with the best coach in the world. Who is the best coach in the world? So then you narrow it down to say, okay, I want to work with the best coach in the world that is doing long distance runners and has helped the fastest people in the world. So you narrow this down to that. If you're a company, you do the same, because the offer is so wide. Let's use design thinking as one of the topics in innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone does design thinking, or say they do. Other discussion, but let's say they have on their website design thinking. So everyone does, and there's, let's say my company is a construction company, and there's one person that says we do design thinking for construction companies. It's the same with running. I would go to that company. If you have another company that has, we do design thinking with everyone that wants to pay us, and the other person is, we do design thinking with construction. Me as a construction person will always go to the construction company.
Yeah, but it's just like very like counterintuitive to the design thinking person, as we say, like look like with the wide perspective that it comes from, you know? And like as it's kind of an innovation process, when I do a design thinking workshop, just like with, I don't know, I did that once for BMW. I had a design thinking workshop and they just sent me like mid-age 45-year-old man with like this typical, you know, caro hemd, that were responsible for the engineering design of the window shield, you know, to go up and down. 25 of these guys. Was the most worst output of a workshop I ever had. You know?
I mean, it's sales. I can only tell you what I have seen working for me super well. If I would do personal branding for everyone, then I would be for no one. And that's
Of
just
course,
what
of
I've
course.
seen from all the business coaches that I have myself. Always when I went into further niching down, the price goes up and the sales goes up. And not from a monetary perspective, the amount of sales that you're closing goes up because you're more specific. Because other people have the choice. Like companies have always the choice whom to work with. Same with keynote speakers. To
Yeah,
loop
yeah,
it back
of
to
course.
keynote speaking.
But maybe it's just maybe for the start, it's really good because if I look maybe at like the most best paid leadership coaches, they just, you know, like really like executive level, they don't say, I just like work for coal mine CEOs. And probably your
Yeah,
CEOs
but
are also very different, right?
they are on the top of the top.
So then it can change.
If you are like one of the top 1% in the whole world, then you will just get requests from everywhere. But nobody of us is.
So you would like just like to break it down and let me open the topic for something else. Like really for the beginning, it's good to totally focus on one.
If you want to sell, then it's the fastest way to sell.
Of course.
Same with keynotes. If you're very specific on whom you target with your keynotes, like when I was talking with Jim, we looked into financial industry. It's very, very simple to target them.
Yeah.
And then you just go down and say, okay, I'm now hitting the financial industry, if we take that example, for the next 20 months. And try to speak wherever I can. And then I'm the most well-known person that is doing what I do in the financial industry. And then you can widen it again. We say, okay, now I'm adding another industry. But you're already the world most known person that is talking in the financial industry.
Okay. Good.
It's just from a sales perspective, as more narrow you go, as faster the sales process is, and as easier it gets to sales, because you know exactly whom to target, you know their language, you know everything, you know their problems, and then you just go that way. As more clear you are, as easier it is for them to buy. More questions? Let's loop it back to keynote speaking. It's the same thing. If we think about that outbound model where you want to promote yourself to be on stages, it's the same thing. Let's say I can speak. I think I could speak on most of the big events out there. But there's a construction industry event, there's a tech event, there's a startup event, there's healthcare event. I don't have all the capacity and I don't have all the possibility and credibility to speak there. If we take me as an example, I can speak on leadership events, I can speak on innovation events and large corporate stuff, because that's where I bring the biggest credibility. I can still, and which I do, maybe I should add that, which is like startup world, because I've done it over the last 10 years. So these are the events that I can focus on speaking, where I can bring the biggest value. If I would, let's use something extremely different, a medical, I would not have the credibility to speak at a medical event, except they look for someone who brings cross industry knowledge into that event. So, but then it's a different target. Then it's again an outbound model where they would say, we're looking for someone who brings different knowledge into our event. If you just would if I would target them and then would say, hey, we'd love to speak at your, let's say, dentist event, because I think I'm a person that can bring leadership experience or personal branding into a dentist event, they would say, like, who are you? So it's really utilizing the credibility you have and then looking into what is the fastest way to sale or fastest way to keynote. Really looking and zooming in. As further you zoom, as easier it gets.
Jens, can we say that I'm coming from the automotive industry and then I link the stuff with sustainability and fashion? Because over there are my pillars or my source of knowledge. That is a good example coming from an industry linked to another two that from the beginning they didn't have anything to do. But if you go with the loop, with the zoom, you can find common points and you can cross all the reference to provide value to another vertical. That is what I do.
Yeah. For you, it's definitely, I mean, you have this two possibilities. One is speaking at fashion events, which is logic because that's your business. The other thing that is adjacent to the car industry. Oops. So where you have car industry or at least car industry focus.
Yeah, that's
because
like
that's our design. I mean, not car industry in general, that's already too wide again. What you need to get to is design in car industry. Where you come from?
I come from the design, from the development.
Exactly.
Being with the guys, Goal was doing the workshop. They were my teammates. All these
exactly.
Engineers with the pencil here and all this stuff. They were my teammates.
Yeah. So for you, it would be, if we take you as an example, looking at all the events these guys go. Like, what are the inspiring events for this type of people that work in the car industry, but working in the design field? They have most probably like 20 events globally or 100, I don't know, maybe even more in car industry. And then zooming in. How can you be value in what you do right now? Same way with the fashion industry. How can you, fashion industry, again, is too wide as well. For you, it's again zooming into sustainable fashion industry, which you do already, I know. So then you look what are the sustainable fashion events in the whole world, and then you can zoom in again.
And even today in the train, I was doing this Zoom. And then, as you say, fashion is really wide, but I took different materials. It's polyester, it's cotton, but I choose leather. And this leather is my focus, and over there it's my Zoom. And with this leather, I can do virtually any kind of product, but in this super niche. Only leather coming from the automotive industry doing sustainability for fashion. That's the stuff where I was working on the train. Because I was doing the homework after just yesterday the senator keynote. I have the information really fresh, and for this reason, I needed to find another kind of communication way to transmit better the message.
Yeah. Cool. Chuck, you have a question?
Yeah, in my case, I probably wouldn't want to go after movie industry talking events because I'm just another cog in the wheel, so to say. Wouldn't it be better for me to go after some of those niche markets and stuff like that look at the movie industry in kind of a way? Because I can relate to almost any industry.
Yeah.
I mean, is that correct? Am I correct thinking?
100%. For you, I mean, you can. It sounds bad, but you could choose the most boring industry, like from, let's say, financial industry, and then how do you trigger them with what you have done? Because you have the huge Hollywood movie background and credibility, and how do you bring this across into a boring industry like financials or something like that? 100%. Because if you would target Hollywood,
Yeah, I think
Doesn't work.
no, I'm
Yeah.
just another cog in the wheel, so to say. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you're right. It's taking some of those other ones. I just got to find that bridge that brings their industry and where they can relate to what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Okay.
Even here can choose sustainability, because if you see sustainability, there is always a big machine park doing industrial work. But if you take something amazing with sustainability, you're gonna change the way that the people see the world. At the end of the day, it's not what we say; it's what we say, what he see, and see if she has seen something sexy, attractive. That's gonna change the perception.
Yeah. Okay. We are at the top of the hour, and I have another call starting. If you have more questions, happy to answer them. We can, of course, we do more calls. I'm adding now a lot of calls in the paid community for those that are interested. Live events, live Q&As, and we have reduced the price of the paid community as well. And it includes, funnily enough, go high level in the package as well. Like social media programming, pipeline building is part of the package of the paid community, because I found a way that I can sell that cheaper to you. So if any one of you is interested in that, reach out. If you have more questions, feel free to reach out. I don't know what the topic next week, but we will do another 5-minute keynotes in the next couple of weeks as well. If you have questions, as always, reach out, connect to each other. I think we can learn from each other like we have done last weekend in Switzerland. It was amazing. We'll share some more photos for those that weren't invited or didn't join. Good. Thank you very much. See you next week.
See you.
Have a great one. Ciao.